Hi, everybody. It's Fiona and Carla and Danielle.
Yay!
We've expanded our little chat, and we were excited to have, Carla's very good friend, Danielle Klooster. I've gotten to know Danielle over the years, and it's my understanding that Danielle was actually Dawn's friend first.
Yes.
So-
You met my husband when he was like 14 or something, wasn't it?
Yep. He was. He and his family moved to Drumheller, where my family was living, and started attending the church where my father pastored. And so, he became part of our youth group, and I've known him since then. So
You're a PK.
I am a PK.
A PK?
Oh my!
Pastor's kid.
Oh, I'm thinking PK. Oh, pre-Carla, but
Yeah.
Carla with a K.
It wasn't working.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, we had a couple of those this morning.
Yeah. No, that's the Christian lingo,
Yeah.
He's a pastor's kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Mhm.
We are excited to have Danielle here. She's also a former colleague of ours, a counselor in Penhold, Alberta, and she also had seen the light and not doing that anymore.
I'm a recovering politician.
That's
I
what
like
we
to
say.
Yeah.
That's what we say. But Danielle has written a fabulous book, 5 Terrible Reasons to Run for Municipal Council. 5. Only 5. If you hit any one of these, you shouldn't be doing it. Anyhow, Danielle has written this book, and we thought, as it is it's under a year now.
It is. And one of the reasons we thought this would be a great time is because those who are not aware of what's going on or paying attention to politics, those other people, they may not realize this, but in about a year from now, today, we're going to be in the thick. No, we'll be over.
It'll be over.
It'll be over, and we'll have a new council across Alberta. So across Alberta, all the municipalities are going to go into an election period at the end of September, and we'll choose new councils by about the 20. I think it's the 21st of October.
I think it is. You would think we would know that, but we don't.
But and so right now is the time when people who are considering it might be starting to mull it over in their head, and so this is a really good time to hit those people as they kind of start thinking, no. And I've talked to a couple people who are kind of like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. And I've had some conversations on the phone with people who are asking questions about what the job is like and all of that kind of stuff, what's involved with running. And so I thought this was a really good opportunity to kind of, for people that are considering it, to take a deep breath and kind of think it through calmly. Because what happens in my experience is once you start telling people, or a lot of people, that you're thinking about running, all of a sudden you get swept up in this thing because all your friends are going to say, oh yeah, you should, oh yeah, I'll help you, oh it'll be great, oh and you'll be able to change this and you'll be able to change that. And it's easy to get kind of swept up in that. But now's the time to really have a calm, rational think about it. And that's where Danielle's book comes in.
Calm and rational. That's me.
That's
Well, that's what we're saying today.
Right. Yes.
I'm gonna grab one of these.
So Danielle, tell us. There's 5. So do you want to start on what is have you ranked them by one, like, importance?
Yeah.
Or is it just the 5 group? Any of these
Yeah.
are a no?
So it's not in importance and it's not in order. It's the 5 most common poor reasons why I over the years have heard people presenting why they wanted to run. It's a mistaken reason for choosing to invest a whole bunch of energy and to decide that you're going to take it's like if you wanted to take a job, because it is taking a job. So I want to go take this job, not because I have skills and experience, but because I'm really pissed off about something and I think that I unilaterally have the ability.
You, one person?
Yeah, that's the thinking, right? So you wouldn't go to, let's say I want to go to work for CN Rail. You wouldn't think to yourself, I really don't like the way that they do things, so I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to change everything. You would never think that. And yet with municipal councils, people have this belief that one person is going to go get a job and change the entire community. And municipal structure, one person can do that, and it's so erroneous. So whatever those five, whatever the reason is of the 5 reasons that I named, those are the most common, and whatever their actual reasons are, these are the reasons that they present to try and get people to vote for them.
Okay.
So if they're using any one of those statements, it's like a sound bite. If they're using any one of those reasons as their platform, they might not even really have that as their real motivation, but they're using it because they think it works. What I really wanted to do was inform voters of, if you hear people saying this garbage, call them out on it, because they aren't going to be able to do it, or it's a bad motivation.
So not only are you helping those that are thinking about running, it's a public service announcement.
100%.
It really is. And that was the thing that really struck me as I read this. It's for everybody, and I maybe didn't lead with the best of this is just for people thinking about running, because it is really good for using a bit of discernment whenever you are looking at a slate of candidates and trying to decide who to vote for. So I'm just going to give the title of the 5 reasons, and maybe just kind of touch on a little bit.
Yeah, I want to preface it by saying how it came into being. So when I chose not to run again, this was really grinding my gears that we were in the middle of election season, and I was hearing all of these silly little sound bites, and I thought, okay, voters, are you really going to be swept into this and just hear what you want to hear? And do you you have a fundamental misunderstanding, voters, if you think that person is going to go in and lower taxes, or if you think they're going to go in and they're going to be personally filling all the potholes. Like, if that's what you think, you're mistaken. So I wrote a blog post just to voice that and to try and move voters to elevate their thinking. And the blog post went crazy across the province, and then it was printed in several newspapers, and people used it in good ways, and people used it in bad ways, and people used it with permission, and people used it without permission, and it was all kinds of weirdness. It just totally took me aback.
It ended up around Canada, didn't it?
Yeah, so then, well, even still, I know which province is having their municipal elections that year by the reprint requests that I get. So I know BC just had their provincial election, and I even got reprint requests saying, I know that this is a provincial election and your stuff is municipal, but there's a lot of stuff for people to think about anyway. So yeah, I can, it's still, 7 years later, got all this traction. So I finally decided, you know what, it's time to actually turn it into a book, and maybe some people could put it in the hands of candidates, but certainly every voter, and every chapter actually has, at the end of every chapter, things for voters to think about, because I really, really want voters. The only reason, and I said it several times in the book, the only reason that candidates say these things is because they work. And if voters wouldn't buy into them, candidates wouldn't say them, because they're going to say the things that are effective. So it's up to the voters to say, calling you on that's not accurate. You can't actually do that, so stop saying it.
Yeah, it's a section at the back called Notes for Voters. Yeah.
Okay.
So the first one is people are ready for change. Did you want to give us the synopsis and what that looks like? And why is it bad? Maybe people are ready for change.
Well, it's funny because people are typically, the way that our culture and society has evolved is that we have decided that we're not responsible for most things, and government is. So we've got this learned helplessness that government is responsible for everything and we're responsible for nothing. So as soon as somebody, your friend, your neighbor, chooses to run for municipal office or even provincial or federal office, they go from being your friend or neighbor to being them. They've joined the evil empire of
Carla.
I had a thing I would say when I was on council, and that is the day before the election, I was a fine, law-abiding, upstanding
just your neighbor. Yep.
Yeah. The next day, I was a lying, cheating politician.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. 100%. Right. And so because we've got this lens of people, as soon as we vote that group in, you know, there might be a honeymoon for a month or two, but within 6 months or so, they're terrible. They can't tell their arses from a hole in the ground. They are making terrible. Why'd they do that? The house, what a stupid blah, 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 blah. So people are, on some level, always ready for change. But on another level, everybody hates change. They don't like change, and they will probably, when they go behind the screen, they're probably going to vote for the known quantity, the safe bet, the devil they know. But the point of a candidate whose entire platform is that people are ready for change is that is not enough. Just because you represent, like, if the best you can do is, hey, I'm new. Like, okay, what else you got? Because there's a whole bunch of new out there, but do you understand budgets? Do you understand how to, you know, read a policy? Do you like reading? Yeah. If you don't like reading, you're gonna hate this job.
6-inch binders.
Yeah, when we went to the iPads, what a difference that was.
Yeah.
We get these, you get them too, the 6-inch white binders. I was sure that Strathcona County owned the market on white binders, because I'd never seen so many white binders. Yeah. And you get that, and you're
and every committee, every meeting, everything had a white binder.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Yeah. So if you don't understand how sewers work, if you don't understand how taxes work, if you don't understand budgets, if you don't understand policy, if you don't understand governance, if you've never served on even so much as a community board, then what else do you have that qualifies you for this job? If you were, again, going to apply to CN Rail, would you walk in and say, but I'm new?
And I'm nice.
I'm nice and I'm new.
So, to be the devil's advocate here, are you saying then that all candidates should have an intimate knowledge of things like sewers and budgets and governance and all of that they should come with those skills?
No, because I didn't.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah. So
sewers particularly.
Yeah, I had an advantage in that I had worked for the municipality for 6 years before I resigned and ran for council. I worked in community services, so my agenda was a social agenda. I really wanted council to pay a little less attention to parks, poop, and pavement, and a little more attention to social issues and the people stuff. And so that was my agenda going in. Did I understand how, I understood the basics of how taxes worked, but I did have some of those pre-qualifying parameters of how a municipality works, but I served 2 terms on council. Do I understand how sewers work today? Yeah, a little bit, but not completely, because that's not my jam.
I would say the only thing, like, before I ran, I took a course on municipal budgeting and finances. That helped me going in, but every municipality does it a little bit different. But I think one of the things that I would suggest is that people understand just the power structure of the governance position. So we have had people come into power going, I'm going to change it all, but they don't because they're running for mayor, but they don't realize that as mayor, they got 1 vote out of however many people are on council. So they need to understand that basics.
Well, even a fundamental misunderstanding of how much time you're committing to. So in my community, it's a small town. It's not a full-time job. So everybody who runs for council already has a job, either a business or a job. And I remember driving the new council to this orientation day that we had after the election. And as we were driving back, it was a really quiet ride back. And then finally one of the new councillors piped up and said, so Danielle, do you think it really takes that much time? Like, do you, like, is it going to be that much time? And that counselor resigned within 6 months. So they had not done their homework to understand what they were committing to. I think the 5 reasons is really the fundamental thesis is, if you are running against something, you're going to have a poor experience, and so is your community.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So if you are running because I'm against that guy and I'm different, so I'm change and I'm against that, and that's your reason for running, that's an against motivation that won't serve you and won't serve your community.
I think that time issue is something that a lot of people run up against. They think that it's going to be, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And in the case of many councils in Alberta particularly, they are part-time. So meetings, all that work is at night after you finished running your business and doing that. And sometimes, that darn public. They like to have those public open houses. And sometimes you're there till 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, there's a current municipal councillor in a community near me where he was one afternoon off in a different community, and he got a message from someone in his community who said, I would like you to come here. I want to meet with you and talk about this issue. And he was like, well, I'm not in town right now. I'm in another community, so I can't meet with you. And that fellow proceeded to go on a massive Facebook rant about this counselor and why he was in a different community when he's supposed to be on duty. Well, so he's supposed to be on duty 24/7 and never leave the community?
Stay within the confines of the municipality for 4 years.
In Strathcona County, in your ward.
Oh.
I used to phone Carla when I was entering her ward, just so that she would know.
Professional courtesy. I'm entering your ward now. But Rick, you had a similar situation where a gentleman called you very upset
and demanded that I get my little butt over there.
Using different
language pretty damn quick so that I could take care of his issue. And he was very rude. Very, very rude. But his issue was real. And I was able to fix it for him. But he was extremely rude.
Right. It's really hard. And I'm sure we'll talk about this after we talk about the terrible motivations. But it is very hard to provide effective leadership and show up in your best leadership, in your best energy when people are coming at you with a bad energy. But that is what you're signing up for, because every day people are going to be coming at you with a bad energy. And if you can't be intentional about the energy that you're showing up in and the leadership you're going to provide, again, poor experience for everybody.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I didn't run again. Because after Adam died, I spent the last 2 years of my term feeling like I was getting I would just start trying to rise above and then it would get sucked out of me.
Yeah.
It was like my mental health was in bad shape because I couldn't get on top of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it is like an avalanche that once you fall into, 2 things are going to happen to you if you are not intentional every day about how you show up. You're either going to adapt or react. And either one of those is going to be a bad thing for your community. If you adapt to the culture, the political culture, and you just assimilate into the political culture, then you've bought into a machine that isn't genuine, isn't authentic, and everything bad they say about politics turns out to be true, and you're part of contributing to that. But if you don't you don't want to do that, but you find yourself in just this us and them mentality. So the other counselors are them and I'm us. The municipal staff is them and I'm us. My constituents are them and I'm us. And it's always this us and them. Then you're just in this reactionary mode, and that is your small self, not your large self, and you won't be able to provide good leadership.
Okay, let's go quickly on to the second one. I'm going to clean house.
Yes. So again, the whole against thing. So a lot of people decide that, again, government's responsible, I'm not. So it must be the city manager's fault. It must be the current mayor's fault. It must be, for a lot of people, I don't know why, but so many people get a hate on for the fire department. And fire departments get...
Ours is beloved.
Yeah,
No, ours is.
Well, and fire departments can get an us and them mentality towards the municipality as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there seems to be a lot of conflict with fire departments, which is like the worst idea ever.
Don't tick off the person that can put your house.
Well, and that's what the firemen say is like,
and
might
ours,
not be.
And I believe in rural Alberta, a lot of our firefighters are volunteer or
Right.
part-time,
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
having other jobs. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just, and so the whole clean house thing is this notion that I, as an individual, have somehow got the power by virtue of getting your vote to go in and fire the city manager or the planner or the, the CFO, or that I, as a member of council, have the power and ability to shut this mayor down and get them kicked out, and when you go in with this, I'm going to clean house energy, you actually are saying, I am going to go in and be as horrible to everybody around me as I can be. I am going to make the city manager's life so miserable that he's going to quit, or I'm going to get him fired. So you're actually going in with a destructive energy. You want to serve and build your community by going in with that kind of destructive energy where I am actually going to rip this place to shreds.
Well, and I find that interesting because a lot of people that work for municipalities live in their municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
So they're your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
They're taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that 99% of everybody has good in mind.
Right.
There's always a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe that everybody has
Right.
they want to make it a good.
Yeah.
They're proud of their work,
Mm-hmm.
and so to go in, guns a blazing,
Right.
and we've seen that before. And one of the things that I learned a lot in that 4 years is not watching, just asking the questions and finding out why, and then you can answer those questions.
Absolutely.
Why does it cost this
Mhm.
much for admittance to the multi-purpose rec center?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Oh, look at the cost of running a pool.
Right.
Why do we have transit when so many of the buses are empty?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
There's
And
a reason for
there
it.
is.
Right.
It's a cultural
Right.
choice, and
Yeah.
rec centers are not there to make money.
Right.
But people are like, well,
Right. Well, and I think you've hit on something that's really important, is that actually, even if these are the reasons given, and even if mentally you go in with that as a motivation, the truth is that absolutely nobody has bad intentions.
No.
Nobody has bad intentions. Nobody thinks I'm going to go in and destroy my community.
No.
Nobody working for the municipality thinks that. Nobody as an elected official thinks that. Their intentions are good, but their methods can be so mistaken and turn out to be destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And as your job as an elected official is to be a generalist
Mm-hmm.
and to look at the whole community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not just one group or the
Mhm.
next group, and I find, like you're mentioning, saying people have that intention, they're going in to change something that's important to them.
That's right.
Or their group.
Well, they
Which
think
brings
they're going to
us-
make things better.
Which brings us to number 3, because
Okay.
I'm keeping everybody
Yes,
on
please
track
do.
here.
He's
Yes.
the director.
It's a very good conversation, but I'm going to fix the insert pet peeves such as snow removal, potholes, bike lanes situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to fix something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One person.
Well, and that's the thing, is that honestly, you might have a desire to better your community. And so you might go in with the motivation of, this is something bad is happening in my community and I really want it fixed. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to step up, and I'm going to take a leadership role, and I'm going to fix this situation because it's bad and I want it fixed. All of that sounds really great. But if you don't understand that you might contribute to the solution,
Mhm.
but you are not going to be the solution, and you are not going to generate the solution, and you won't have the power and authority to decide unilaterally on what the decision is. You don't have that authority. The decision might not go the way that you want it to, and ultimately you're going to end up having to face situations where the decision that's being made doesn't serve me personally. It kind of sucks for me. It now means that I've got to go pay to store my RV instead of parking it in my driveway. But that's the decision of council. It doesn't benefit me personally, but if I vote against it because it doesn't benefit me personally, then I'm not providing good leadership.
Mm-hmm. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing wrong with having some of these elements in your reasoning. Like that
We
maybe
have to have that passion for your community.
Yeah, and there has to be a reason, because otherwise, if you thought everybody was doing a great job, you wouldn't bother. So I think it's okay to have some of these elements, but it can't be the reason.
I think that most people decide that some sort of something needs to be different, and that is part of their motivation to run. Wouldn't it be amazing if the leadership in our communities was so awesome that people were like, I want to be part of that. I love the vision. I love the direction. I want to contribute too. Like, wouldn't that be so amazing if we could get there, instead of, oh, problem. Oh, it's always a problem, a pain driver instead of a desire driver.
Yeah. Okay, so number 4, we have to get rid of the current corrupt / secretive / self-serving / incompetent bunch. Now, we heard a lot of that when we were on council as well, because there's always residents that are council's on the take. Council shouldn't be taking money from developers because they're catering to developers. They're corrupt. They should be recusing themselves. They this, they that, and they're horrible. Or
it's back to your point of the day before the election, you're a good guy, and that right after you're slimy.
But there's also the side of sometimes people will tend to vilify the administration.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Also, residents generally.
Yeah.
Caring about
typically
proud of their work.
Yeah.
As most people in their jobs are proud of their
work.
Well,
and for me, it is part of the evolution of how we have solved problems in our society. So 1% of people steal from stores, but yet we have tremendous policies and restrictions on 100% of shoppers because of the 1% who are corrupt, the 1% who steal. So trust me, most people who sign up to become an elected official and say, pick me, please put the bullseye somewhere in the middle of my back. Like, what you are signing up for is so challenging. It will challenge your family. It will challenge your mental health. It will challenge your character. It will challenge your skill, your knowledge, your physical reserves. It will challenge you on every front. And so for us to look at government and say, they just signed up for the easy road to take my money and be corrupt. And the notion that 99% of politicians, of elected officials, are corrupt is not correct. And certainly when they come in, it's even less so. But they're either going to, if they fall into either adapting or reacting, there can become, I'm not saying that there's no corruption. There can become a culture of corruption, but it isn't. It's amazing to me that we've been so culturalized and socialized that our immediate default and go-to is corruption.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's really interesting. Like when I was on council, I, of course, knew my colleagues. I went to AUMA, AMDNC, is what it was called.
RMA, yeah.
RMA. And met a lot of politicians. Then I went to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and sat on some committees there and whatnot. Met a whole bunch of politicians from around Canada. I have had friends who are in provincial politics.
Right.
And I would say out of all those people that I have met, I could maybe I would say count on one hand the ones I thought were suspicious or corrupt, but it would be less than one
Right.
hand. There was maybe a couple I thought, oh wow,
Yeah, something's not right with your
Something's
moral
really-
compass there.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
and and yet the overarching whatever is politicians are corrupt. Well,
Right.
you know, you're to the point where Trump gets on a debate and tells Biden, "No, you're a politician. You're the president of the United States. You're a politician too."
He's a businessman
Yeah.
first.
Okay, but I mean, it's used as a slur.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, what is
Absolutely.
it? It's in the top 5 of professions.
Oh, remember that time we were at that? It was about trends in municipal politics, and Fiona's husband Dave was there, and at the time he was a provincial MLA, and they put up the list of the least trustworthy or the most trustworthy, starting from like the first, which was like nurses or something, all the way down, and like Dave and Fiona hit provincial, municipal, and then the next step up or the bottom was car salesman, and they used to own a car dealership.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were telling him he was slowly working his way up.
The only other thing that he could do at this time is maybe become a lawyer, because they also
Right.
get
Lawyers
are also
Yeah, it was
Sure.
right down there.
Yeah.
yeah, they're also for some reason,
Right.
as soon as you're a lawyer, you're
Mhm.
Okay, so the number 5 reason, and then we can just have a free for all.
Yeah.
Which has not happened so far.
no,
No.
very structured.
Very
Very
structured. I'm going to make lowering taxes my number 1 priority.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody wants to save money, Danielle.
Sure. Yeah. So, in my view, of the 5 terrible reasons, this is the worst. It's the worst reason. Because if you, like, nobody wants to I shouldn't say nobody. Most people do not see it as a privilege to pay taxes, and they do not want to pay taxes. Personally, I want to pay taxes because I always pay somebody else money to do the things I don't want to do or
Yeah.
can't do.
Well, I took the time. We were very lucky. The Sherwood Park News would give us one in every 9 weeks. You'd get an opportunity because there was the mayor and 8 councillors.
Right.
So we would generally put an article in, and I wrote one called Tea and Taxes, and I figured out when I took and a lot of people don't realize that all the municipalities are charged with collecting the school
That's right.
taxes, education taxes for the province.
And it's just a
so
flow
it's all
through,
it's
a
all in
requisition.
there. Yeah, exactly. So it's in there. So I took that out and I looked at the little bit that's extra as a line item for our housing,
Mhm.
Heartland housing, and a little bit extra for our library. And I realized at that time, there were 3 people. My son was living with us. 3 of us in the house. I spent more on my Tim Hortons tea
Sure.
every day
Mhm.
than I paid
Right.
for fire,
Roads,
roads,
schools,
family
Sewers.
communities.
Like,
No,
yeah,
not school.
not school, but yeah.
But
Sewer.
sewer.
Mhm.
And the beautiful boulevards and
Right.
things, all the
Mhm.
things, and snow clearing. My goodness, we know how that's a top button,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
That's it,
And what I find really interesting, at least from the perspective coming from Strathcona County, is that it almost becomes just something you say right up there with. You may not have any personal experience with politicians, but we know they're corrupt,
Mhm.
and you may
We pay
not
too much
you may
tax.
not have actually looked into it, but we pay too much taxes.
Right.
So in Strathcona County, we have some of the lowest taxes.
Mhm.
We have a industrial base, a non-residential they call it,
Yeah.
which pays for 70%
Mhm.
of the expenditures that come
Yeah.
out of the thing. So we're at 30%. St. Albert's at 90.
Mhm.
And yet, people in the county will say that's
Right.
their number 1 thing, lower taxes.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's funny because, again, it's all perspective. So politicians in St. Albert hear about how come we can't have the same taxes as Strathcona County.
Right.
And I know one former MLA used to say, would you like a polypropylene plant in your backyard? And that's where that industrial assessment comes from.
Sure.
That, and it pays, and it gives us a wonderful lifestyle.
Yes.
And and to your point that if you're going out and getting a service, a lawn service, or someone to shovel, you expect-
Someone comes in to clean your house.
Yeah,
I
you
don't want
expect-
to take my time to clean my house. I could.
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
Yeah.
So I hire somebody to clean my. I don't actually do that, but
Me neither.
it's
I was
just,
gonna
it's
say,
just an
It's
example.
kind of a sore point
Just
for
an
me.
example. You know, it's a goal. It's an aspiration.
I know.
But so there are people who are like, I will pay somebody to do something
Yeah.
I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there are things that I actually can't do, right?
Like
So-
re-roof your house or something.
Well, I mean,
Maybe you
I
could.
suppose I could go to the bathroom in a bucket and take
Haul your
that
sewage
bucket
out.
and haul. I could do that,
Yeah.
but I'd much rather pay somebody to have pipes so that I can just.
That's another one too. People don't realize the cost of bringing that water to your house is the same to put that pipe in as
Mhm.
for 2 people or for 6 people.
That's right.
And people are like, well, how come I'm paying the same? Well, transmission is transmission.
Right.
And your house is here. And people don't understand that.
Well, and I mean, there's that whole conversation around. I don't. Why do I pay school taxes when I don't have any kids in schools? Well, you want to live in a community that has schools, and you want your housing values to benefit from.
Yeah.
having
you
a
might
school.
want a doctor someday.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you want a society with educated kids.
Right, exactly. So
You might
that
need a
that,
doctor.
that really ultra libertarian perspective of if I don't use it, I don't want to pay for it. That is the whole purpose of taxes, is that we pool the money together and distribute it for the benefit of all, so that the quality of life is improved for all of us. But really the real important thing to know about why this is such a terrible reason is because if your whole perspective is on saving money and not spending money, you are completely mistaken about what your job is.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole job is to build community. As an elected official, your entire job is to build for the future of your community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you do not have, and that you are making decisions today that have an impact after you are done on council, and if you don't have that lens, that there is going to be a legacy after I'm no longer serving, I'm building this community for the future. And that requires resources.
and strength, and not even just resources, but also strength to
Conviction.
Conviction, yeah. A good example in the River Valley, our river, Edmonton or Metro River Valley, is the largest park system
Largest
in North
contiguous park system in North America.
So it was the leaders, and there's a plaque there down now by the Hotel McDonald about a counselor or somebody in 1906. They made that decision for today. And so to have that conviction, and it may not be popular, but you have to be constantly, like you say, committed and caring about the future.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think there's a balance there, though, because you are also working and serving the people of today.
Yes.
And so there's that balance of shared financial responsibility, for lack, because I mean, if you're building something today, people in the future are going to be paying for it. Even if the building's paid off, they're still going to be paying for the staff and the upkeep and the maintenance and all of that kind of stuff. So I think there's that balance that needs to be struck between what we're investing into the future, what we're putting on our grandchildren, and how we are helping the people of today.
But you know what I have found? So I have done a bunch of reading around visionary councils. And there is a way of paying for things. So toll roads is an example. The community decides, we really want that new road and we don't want our taxes to go up. So let's pay $1.50 every time we drive on that road. And they can, if leadership has done a great job of casting vision and saying, how would you like to pay for this? So we want to build something for the future. How would we like to pay for this? There are many communities where they wanted a community hall. So they decided that for the next 2 years, we're going to each pay an extra $10 or $20 on our taxes. And that's how we're going to build this community hall. Communities can get on board with that if you are a visionary leader that inspires a shared vision with your community.
But what if you have a community that has a very entrenched
Resistance?
no, not resistance, entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
Entitlement to no. I give you enough money, make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I want this, this, and this.
Right.
And I give you enough money, you should make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe cut your salary,
Mm-hmm.
preferably.
Right.
Because that's going
Sure.
to make such a huge
Mm-hmm.
dent.
Mm-hmm. So so I'm not responsible for the energy that other people and the mindset that other people show up with. And if my residents, if my community members, my voters say to me, no, we want you to build for the future. We want you to do these things, but we don't want to pay for it. Then I am faced with the choice of either saying, the decision's been made to have this. We must pay for it. We're going to do everything in our power to make the absolute best use of our resources. But here's the decision, because that's what you've been elected to do.
Mm-hmm.
You get to be the leader. You have to be the leader.
Yeah.
And so if it's a tough decision of, listen, we as a community have decided to have this recreation center. We've proven with the studies we've done and the community, the focus groups we've had and the open houses we've had, that the will and desire to have it is there. It must also be paid for. So now we're going to have this tough decision. Leadership's going to make that tough decision.
And
That's the way it's going to be.
And that's to the tough part. You know, it's not, your decisions aren't always popular.
That's right.
And you can't always have a plebiscite or referendum on every decision. Nothing would be built.
No.
Nothing.
Okay, this is great, guys.
Mhm.
Now we have a couple of these books, of Danielle's books. It is available by Kindle, and you can also on Amazon.ca, and you can and I'll put the link in that. And you can also order a hard copy of it there as well. But we have a couple copies of this, and what we'd like to do is we'd like to give a couple of them out. Yay! So now, if you want to just put your name in the comment section, then
I can cut up those strips of paper like I did yesterday, put their names on, and we can do a draw.
you get way too excited
So
about
fun.
stuff like that.
So fun. Kindergarten crafting.
Yeah, so if you can do that, and then we will notify the recipients.
And we'll have them, of course, autographed.
Well, and I would ask a favor
What's
that once you have read your copy, if you are the winner, I would love to hear from you about what was meaningful to you or anything that was confusing, or if you are thinking of running, let's have a conversation about your motives and what you think it's about. I really want to support quality candidates. And if you are a voter and you just want to know how to make a really good decision in your when you go behind the screen, and bear in mind that you don't have to tick 6 boxes or however many candidates are in your community. You aren't required to check that number of boxes. You only have to vote for the people that you believe in.
So yeah, that's if it's not a ward system.
If it's not a ward system, then yes. So sorry, I should have qualified that. But nonetheless, if you just really are wanting to raise the bar for yourself and make better decisions about how you vote and expect better and demand better from your candidates, then let's have a conversation about that. I would love to.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My
Yeah,
pleasure
it's
and
been
privilege.
fun.
Thank you for having me.
All
right? Yes.
we should probably end it on a positive note. That,
Fiona's running again.
no, that is not.
It is not
true.
April Fool's either.
No.
Yeah.
But you know, again, we all chose not to run again.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, I valued all I learned
Mm-hmm.
and the people that I met.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, frankly, I didn't think I was as smart as I was.
Turned out to be. It was like, wow.
And I learned so much. And
Mhm.
I think I learned patience
Mhm.
and a little bit less judgy.
Mm-hmm.
And things
I
like that.
learned to have a lot broader view of things. So, for example, one of the best quotes that I came away from, and mine mindset that I came away from was someone has said, oftentimes the simplest, most straightforward answer to a problem is also the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
And what it taught me was when you get in there, something that you think is really straightforward,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, we'll just change this,
Mm-hmm.
has all these ripple effects, and,
Mm-hmm.
and it's much more complex.
Yeah.
And if it was that easy, somebody would have changed
Right.
it already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like right now there's a conversation about a cat bylaw. Well, nobody's dealt with it. Well, yeah, we actually
everyone
have. There's a reason why we didn't pass the cat
Right.
bylaw. It's not because we just didn't bother.
Right.
No.
You know, and so it's always interesting to me. So that's what I really took away
Yeah.
from it, was looking at a broader
Well, and
picture.
for me, I would say that I can drive around my community and physically see things that are there. Buildings, trails, parks, neighborhoods that weren't there. And I had a part in bringing those things. There was nothing there, and now something's there, and I had a part in that. And however large or small my part in that was, I had a contribution in that, and that just fills me with such a sense of satisfaction that I
Leaving that
actually
legacy.
made a contribution to something meaningful and lasting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a very profound thought.
And that's a good way to leave the interview
Yes.
on.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.